So the first aspect of this whole thing is like we need to really start working on like who our ideal client is, and there's a lot of reasons to do this, but really, if you're like casting out a line to every single person that wants wedding photography, you're not actually casting a line out to everybody or to anybody, because everyone sees you just kind of like, oh, I'll take any wedding that comes in. That's what we would call desperation. On the other hand, there is an opposite side of this where we're narrowing down. We're just working with the type of clients that's perfect for us, and there's a lot of really good benefits to this. Leads us to ask, why do we only want to work with ideal or dream clients, right? If you do want to sound off in the comments, let us know why you would only want to work with the clients that you're meant to work with. Let me know. Why do you think we only need to work with those clients that we're actually meant to work with? And there's no wrong answers here either. It could generally be as simple as just like, oh, that sounds more fun. That's not technically a wrong answer. It's not the most in-depth answer of all time, but it is one of those answers that we could accept. Hey, Carmen, I can see you just joining us here. We're talking ideal dream clients. So I'm curious, why do we only want to work with ideal dream clients? There's a ton of benefits here. We'll kind of deep dive in anyway, right? We like ideal or dream clients because you're more excited about their project, right? Your best work is going to come from the excitement of that project. And what's cool about that is like people are reciprocal with energy, right? Carmen says it doesn't feel like working. Yeah, absolutely. When we're working with people we're meant to work with, it doesn't nearly feel as laborious as it could. And we have more fun. It's good. Your clients are going to feel the energy that you have, and they're going to reciprocate that back to you, meaning they're going to be just as excited for their photos as you are to take them, right? Carmen says, we have more fun. We love being around them. Yeah, these are all great points. But that energy that you're putting out, it's going to come back from the client, and then the client's going to be so excited about what you do with it, right, that they're going to tell their friends who are likely also ideal clients. Because here's the cool thing about ideal clients, right? The people that we narrow down to, that we really start thinking like, oh, who's this kind of person? What do they do? And what do they like? What are they interested in? Their friends are probably pretty similar. Like my friends are fairly similar to me. Like a lot of them are photographers. A lot of them are business owners. Actually, I'd say like 90% of them are business owners. They're always working on themselves in some way or another. That's a staple across all of them. They're into personal development. They're changing things up. Those are all great things. Those are things that I would be looking for in an ideal client. Those are things that somebody who hires, like who sells me something, is probably looking for. And so when you're working with the right people, not only are you happier, are you having more fun, are you not feeling like you're working as much, but your client's happier. Your client's getting better results. And they're telling their friends who are also going to do the same thing. So you just continuously are repeating this process. We keep narrowing it down. We keep getting better and better at it. Your work, your energy, and your business are all going to grow from working with the right people. If we want that growth in our businesses, we can't just be working with anyone who's looking for a photographer. Now, I don't want you to harp on anything, but if you're in those Facebook groups and you're seeing, I need a photographer, and you're now just like, you're fighting it out in the comments. You're like, hey, I'm available. I would love to be considered. I'd love to be considered. I'd love to be considered. You're never really taking into account, is this the person I actually do want to work with? Like, you're not looking into them in most cases. I've seen a lot of photographers go in and they're not even like focusing on like, oh, is this client working at a wedding venue I want to work at? Are they looking for the type of things I'm looking at? Like, what did they say in their post? Did they just say, I'm looking for a photographer? Or did they say like, I'm looking for a moody photographer, or I'm looking for like someone who makes me feel like I'm hanging out with a friend all day? Are they looking for the type of photographer that maybe is like documentary, or maybe they're like really big into like magazine style poses, editorial things is the correct term? Are they actually looking for what you do? And then more aligned with that, are they aligned with how you're aligned? Because here's the deal, right? We can see this all the time with like politics or anything else. When someone's not aligned with what we believe, all it does is create like fighting all the time, just constant fighting. Now, for me personally, when I'm talking about ideal clients, my ideal clients don't ever bring up their politics to me. That's like the most ideal way to get hired or to allow me to work with you, because the second you go like, hey, we're getting married, but we want to know who you voted for, I know that I don't want to work with you, because that shouldn't be the main purpose of your wedding, right? Whether I agree with you or not, it doesn't matter. I don't want to work with somebody who's mainly focused on those kind of things. And that's something important to kind of look at. So what do? You click on that post, you go see who posted it, you see what they posted about, and then go see back like on their profile somewhere, right? We want to make sure that they're fitting into this niche. There is a better way of doing this though, right? We could create content that actually attracts those people in. We could write a post that solves a problem that our ideal client's going to have. We could define this better. We could be attracting them to us rather than trying to go to them when they're asking for other people to come in. Because what happens in those comments, right? It's 250 photographers. You're all fighting for it. Now everyone's lowering their price. Well, I'll do a $500 discount. I'll do a $1,000 discount. Yeah, what are we doing? We're fighting to be broke. Does anyone want to actually fight to be broke? I would hope not. Right? And so then comes this question. How do we get an ideal client to pay? Right? Because it doesn't matter if we find them and they don't want to pay us, but how do we get them to actually pay us when we find them? Like if we find out where they're at and then none of them want to pay anything, it doesn't really matter. And typically this is just a perspective change problem. But let's break this down even further. These are 4 business terms you really, really need to understand. Okay? Cost is all the expenses, including your time, expertise, and physical expenses. Now, I put in this very specifically. I put your time. You need to be paying yourself, right? As you're running a business, like your time does have a cost to it. So you need, in some way, shape, or form, to be paying yourself, and it needs to be included in your cost. Thaddeus says, "I would like to fight to be less broken." Yeah, buddy, sure. 100%. Go fight people. That's I think those are called boxers or UFC fighters. And then after that is profit. Now, profit is what you make after the cost, even after paying yourself. So this is not like the payment that you make to yourself is not included in the profit. Okay? The profit is what you keep after you've paid for all the expenses, again, including yourself, including we want to include stuff like gear rental inside there. We want to include like what the cost of the gear would be for a wedding day. So like if you're going to rent out a camera, find out what that industry standard like rate is going to be and include that in your cost, because essentially your camera gear does not last forever. And we don't want to have all of the profit pay for all the camera gear when that camera gear actually does end up failing out. That's a really great way to go out of business. We should arrange a one-night only ring match between photographers. That is an option. I think there's a lot of insurance risks that happen there. Anyway, then the third term here, right? The third term is price. So what's price? Well, price is really simple. It's just cost plus profit. That equals price, right? Now, here's something that's kind of interesting, right? The actual cost of things is what determines the cost of things, right? That's set by just like common sense. Profit is set by you. You decide how much profit there's going to be. Price is also set by you. But here's value. Value comes in, and guess what? You don't get to decide what the value is. You cannot change someone's value. You cannot change what their idea of what it is that they value, right? Because value essentially is worth. The client's looking for is what I'm getting worth the price. So they're kind of comparing their own values to what it is you're selling and seeing the price and going, oh, okay, do I value the money that costs more? So like, let's say you're selling a $5,000 wedding. Do I value that $5,000 more than I value what I would get from this photographer from having them like do our wedding? Right? And so that's a thing that you really have to understand. You cannot change someone else's value. So like if you're in this idea where you can come in and you can say like, well, here's all the things you're going to be missing out on. You think you're going to change what that person's value is? No, what you're trying to change is their perspective, right? You're trying to change what they see the value as, like how they got to that value, or what it is that they think they're giving up. Because sometimes when customers come in, you got to remember, it's the first time they're getting married in most cases, right? They don't actually know what they're giving up. They don't know what they're going to value in 20 years. They don't know what they're going to value in 10 years. But if you've been around, you've worked with enough clients, guess what? You do. You know what it meant to the other clients. You can even ask past clients a year after the wedding. You can literally go back and say like, hey, I just want to let you know, it's been a year since your wedding. I really loved working with you. And I just want to know, like, what do those photos mean to you now? Just see what they send back. Just ask them that question and see what they send back, because that's going to give you more information on how to change perspective with the clients you have coming in. And here's where that comes from, right? Sales are only possible when a client sees more value in what you offer than the price you set. In other words, they need to be seeing a deal. So if you come in and just say, I just sell photos. That's all I do. I just sell photos, and I happen to be on your wedding day. It's a thing. Here's my price. That's not going to work. That's not going to sell anybody on anything. Right? The change here is when they start thinking of intrinsic values. So, for example, for me, some of you may know, some of you don't know, my sister passed when I was 21. We didn't actually have a ton of photos together. So, like a photo with my sister, towards the later years of her life would be worth way more to me than when we were kids, because the one when we were kids would be like a forced photo. That would be, mom takes me to Sears, I'm upset, I am at Sears, don't like this at all. But an older photo where it's just like a selfie together or whatever, that would mean so much more to me now than it did then. Then it was just like, oh, I can get a selfie anytime. And that's how your clients are thinking of the moments that are happening at their wedding. They're thinking, oh, a photo, right? A photo is just this, it's just a photo. That's all it is, just a photo. But it's not a photo. Photos are moments. Photos are things that go in the past. So when I'm talking about my sister, she's passed away. I don't know if I actually even said that. She passed away from horrible cancer called DIPG. Terrible stuff. But a photo with my sister right now would mean so much more to me now because that moment's passed. Like I could look back and be like, oh, I remember this little trip here. I remember this. That would matter to me so much more now than it would when I was first thinking about selfies. Your client's wedding day is going to be kind of the same way. So we have to start getting them to think differently. And we get them to think differently by us thinking differently in the first place. Okay? I know that sounds really confusing, right? It's called perspective shift. So when you're coming into the meeting with the client, right? When we're learning essentially about this client, we're asking them questions, we're kind of figuring out if we want to do their wedding, if they want to work with us, we have to come into it with a different perspective. A lot of us like to join these meetings and we're like, oh, I'm so desperate, I need a lead right now, I cannot leave without this lead. If I don't get this lead, my business is going to fail. If you are someone who used to watch The Crocodile Hunter, I remember somewhat vividly, but there was a whole thing he talked about there where it's like animals smell fear. So they know when you're afraid and they act differently when you're afraid. Well, guess who also can smell desperation? Your clients. Desperation is going to ruin any confidence you're trying to show off, right? So when you come into a meeting and you're desperate and you're like, oh my God, I have to have this booking, I cannot leave without this booking. It's like, I don't know if they smell it necessarily. I don't know what desperation smells like, but they come into this meeting and they can feel that you're desperate for them. So they know that there's actually more of a risk, right? You're keeping all the risk on their end, because if you're desperate, that means nobody wants you, which means you're probably not doing that good of a job, which means there's no reason that they'd actually see the value in what you're selling. And so here's the thing. Like, if we can get that perspective changed, if we stop coming in and showing up desperate and being like, I need to decide if I actually want to do this wedding or not, and come with the idea that, you know what, if this wedding doesn't work out, there's another wedding that's going to come in. That's going to start giving more confidence to your sales process. It's going to start giving you a more confident vibe, which is going to really, legitimately, raise the value of your services. Because they're not like concerned. There's no longer concern. There's like, oh, this guy doesn't, he doesn't have anyone coming in. Nobody wants to talk to him. It's kind of interesting because there's an interesting perspective you can see from like dating even, right? So like one of the like memes that are kind of floating around here that I've seen is like when you have a when you're single, right? Not everyone's just like running up to you. There's not a ton of people are hitting on you, but the second you get like in a relationship, all of a sudden your worth comes up. So now people are starting to run up to you. Now you start noticing these things, right? And then part of that's just like your own brain playing tricks on you. But the other part of that is that legitimately you've raised your value. Everyone wants to come talk to you now, right? And so perspective change should come from this. You need to serve better first. Your first goal when you're talking to your clients should be to serve them. Okay, even potential clients. So when I go into like a sales meeting, I'm not going into that meeting with like, I have to have this booking or I'm going to go out of business. Right? I'm not going to that meeting that way. I'm going to the meeting with the idea of, I really hope they get something out of this. Whether it's an actual like me as their photographer, or if it's just more information and they can leave more informed of like, oh, this is what we should be looking for in our photographer, or this is kind of what that perspective change is going to be. Because let's be honest, not only can they tell me no, right? I can tell them no. I can say, hey, listen, I just don't think this is a good fit for me, and I don't really want to, I don't think we're a good fit. I'd love to send you over to someone else. So serve better, sell later. That should be your perspective. If you serve them better first, you will sell later. Do you get this? Like, we're not coming in with desperation. We don't need every booking that comes in. We don't need every client that comes to our door. But the ones that are meant for us, are the ones we should be talking to. And the only way we're going to find out if we're actually meant for those people is if we serve them first. So what do you mean by serving, right? It's like, oh, well, I can say that, but I don't really know I don't know how to do that. Well, you got to ask some questions. You got to start talking to them. You got to find out what's important to them. You got to start changing their perspective, right? So let's talk about this though. right? We come in. What's our job as a storyteller? Because we're not just photographers. Can we just be honest? Like, we don't just sell photos. If you just sold photos, it'd be easier to get like 140 leads in a year and shoot all of them because you wouldn't be doing that much afterwards. But we're storytellers. So we have to start thinking, what is my job as a storyteller? Your job as a storyteller is different. It's not just like, oh, I come with a camera, I click things, and I'm good. You got to discover what the client wants. They came to you for something, and this is the fun part, they don't know what it is yet. They don't know because, again, they've never been married before. They think they just need photos. They don't know why they think they need photos, but they know they need photos. They don't have an informed perspective. Then you need to find out what they're most concerned about for the day. Because here's the deal. All profit lies in risk. Whoever has the most risk is the person who can possibly gain the most profit. Does that make sense? So like if the client's coming in and they're really, really considering booking you, but all of the risk is on their side, they're not going to want to take that risk. But if you can move that risk over to your side, now you can start charging more and more because they know that whatever their concerns were are now taken care of. And now the risky part on your side is making sure those concerns were actually taken care of, right? The more risk that we accept from the client's perspective, the more we can sell. And so here it comes down to this, right? You're gonna listen to those risks. You're gonna listen to what they value. Like, what is it they actually came for as a client? What do they want wedding photos for? And you're gonna create a story around the client's values. So like some of my clients are not really big and into like family sessions. Like they know they need family photos. Again, there are some things you just have to shoot as a photographer to maintain safety, to kind of reduce your level of risk. But they also need photos that actually tell a story around what it is that they value. So like my clients, they don't love family photos. We take like 15 minutes of family photos. I get those knocked out. And then I focus on the things that they actually told me were important in the first place. Those things are what like ensures my future, right? I asked a question here a few weeks ago in the group, and it was, you should start asking your clients, if you choose me as your photographer, how would you know I was the right choice 1 year from now? Well, that gives you the answer to the problem you have. What do you need to deliver on? Exactly what they say in that answer. Now, that doesn't mean you ignore other things. Like if they just say, well, we just want a really great photo together, it doesn't mean you ignore every other person at that wedding and don't take any other moment and don't take your basics. But the deal is that if you can deliver on that one thing, a lot of that risk is taken off. Because I'm going to be honest with you, my clients love their photos, don't get me wrong, but they really only post like 20 or 30 of them. They really only have certain moments from the day. So if you go back and you look at when you delivered full galleries and see what the posts were on Facebook afterwards, you can see which moments the clients are actually valuing. And you can start creating your own list of like what was important to this one, what was important to this one, what was important to this one. And by the way, I would do it this way. I would look at weddings I would want to repeat. I would look at the weddings that I'd want to do again and again and again and again and start really hitting on those moments so that I can continuously repeat that experience. If you guys are getting some value from this, just drop it in the comments. It's good for the Facebook algorithm. Also, it lets me know that no one's asleep, which is a little bit of a concern, right? The fourth and final thing you need to do is deliver legacy because, again, remember, we talked about that thing with my sister and like how one selfie with my sister would mean so much more to me now than it did when she was around. You have to deliver legacy. Memories fail. Okay? My grandmother's really a famous example. She, when we were growing up, I was David, Brian, Kenny, Roy, sometimes Beth, which is my mom's name. That was interesting, right? And she would misremember facts. Like they would just, the stories would go together or they wouldn't ever have happened. Or like if you played cards with her, that woman cheated more than I think anyone else. And I think it's just because she forgot the rules. I'm just going to be honest. I think that was what was going on. Memories fail though. And so your photos actually have a purpose. And that purpose is legacy. People want to remember, they want to remember how they felt in a certain moment. And so people who come to like work with you they're not buying pictures. They're ensuring moments, right? That's their perspective change. Their perspective change is that I'm not just coming to you for photos now. Now my perspective is that I'm coming with you to make sure the moments that I actually give a shit about are actually going to make it into that album, are actually going to make it into that gallery you send me, are actually going to be something I can look at in 20 years with my kids and explain what happened. That's the perspective you need to start changing. And the only way that's going to happen is if you start asking deeper questions. You start finding out what it is each person values. You start really, really looking into, okay, my clients don't really want just photos, because nobody wants just photos. For example, if I wanted like a photo of me, I don't want a photo of me that's just a photo of me. Like maybe I'm just sitting down, my posture is all wrong. No, I want a photo that makes me feel good and makes me look confident, right? I want that. So maybe that's something that your clients are looking for. It's never just the photo. Everyone thinks it's just a photo when they're on, all these like little Instagram, TikTok things you see all the time. And it's just, oh yeah, your clients just want really great photos. Here's how you can get really good perspective. No, what problem are you trying to solve for that client? Because they have something they want that's way deeper than photos. Especially your wedding clients. They're not coming into you because you're just a good photographer. They're coming into you because they think you can solve their problem the best, and you need to find out what that problem is. And that problem is typically they just want to ensure the moments that they're having, because they don't happen again. Right? And so the what, when clients come in, right? The what is photos. You have to start pulling out the why. The why is where your sell is. Because if you don't know the why and you just start showing them prices, they're going to be like, I don't really care about that. It's not that important. Without the why, the what allows your prices to be cheaper. Okay? So, why does your client want photographs? Kind of hit on this a little bit, right? They want those moments insured. Memory eventually fails. We already kind of talked about this too. They want to remember the moments of the day as they happened. You got to remember, like sometimes as a photographer, you see things that your clients never actually got to see because you're walking around, your photos are being taken all over the place. There are things that are going on in that wedding day that like they never actually got to see. So your job is also to kind of inform them of the moment. So if you do like a reveal or a premiere, as we call them, when you're showing your images to people, if you can give them a little bit of background on what was going on in that photo or how that even happened, I'm going to tell you something. They're going to remember that you remembered that. And it's not even that hard to remember those little things. Like if you really, really think about it, it's not that hard. But they want to remember moments of the day that they were involved in, ones they weren't involved in. They want to be able to jump back in because they want instant nostalgia. Nostalgia is an important factor, right? Because like you said, memory fails. They want to be jumped right back into how they felt when the image was taken. Okay. This is why it's important. If you get let's say you get a kiss photo, it's really important for them to almost smile as they get into that kiss, because when they see that smile, it's not even that it has to be necessarily genuine, but when they see like that half smile as they go in, especially for filmmakers, I know we have a couple of filmmakers in here. As they see that smile as they go in, their brain sees them smiling, and then they start kind of internally becoming just slightly happier. So when you have just like a really bad kiss photo that looks awkward or whatever, that's not helping anyone. Right? So Carmen says, that's like the best part for me to take them from there. Yeah. It's not the actual kiss. It's like it's a little smidge before that, right? It's just a tiny smidge. Because what that does is that creates nostalgia for them. So they see your images and they're like, oh my God, this is what it is. This is, I remember this. I remember. I was laughing because his breath smelled terrible. Whatever it is, it's just important. Carmen says, oh yeah, we've had to pause the video just to process it. Yeah. The clients want to see this little moment and be brought back in so they can be like, oh my God, I remember this wedding day. I remember how I felt. By the way, one thing to kind of give your clients is like a little bit of jumpstart is to give them like some tips before the wedding. And one of the tips I love to give them is get a cologne that's like unique to the day. That way, anytime they smell it, they're brought right back in. This stops fights later on, I almost promise. Like someone sprays that on, and they're like, oh, I remember why I married you. And now all of a sudden that little thing that they did, that little, we'll call it like a little habit that annoys them, it's not going to be as big of a deal for that particular day. That doesn't mean it won't annoy them in the future. Just want to clarify that. But they can always be brought back in. So like on anniversaries, they can wear that same cologne, perfume, whatever. And now you're all of a sudden kind of being brought back in just from smells. It's not just photos that jumpstart memories, right? There is no single story in one image, just context clues. So when someone gets an image, their brain does a few magical things, right? It's going to fill in the blanks. So they could see a moment from like the getting ready part of the day, and they can remember like the next couple of moments from that one photo. It's not the full story in a single image. It's the jump start to that moment. And so like when someone looks back at a photo, they can be brought back into like how they felt when their mom saw them in the dress for the first time, or how they saw when they were at their first look, or how they felt at the reception, or what happened at reception right afterwards. Because the brain does this cool thing where it goes, okay, here's an image. I remember this moment. Here's that memory that we've kind of like held off, right? So the brain fuels memories from your jumpstart. Your photo is essentially the jumpstart. That allows them to start jumping back into those feelings. That's what you're selling. So like, stop trying to sell just photos. That's your big thing. If you want more dream clients, if you want to really start changing perspectives, because by the way, here's the deal about dream clients. There's no like not everyone has the same dream client. And when you start understanding their psychology and you start delivering moments back to them, this is what you're getting back. And that's where that value shift is, right? Because you're not actually changing their value. It's not like they value their partner more because you had a nice conversation with them. They just remember what it is that they're actually trying to get back. A photograph, its entire purpose, like the entire purpose of a photo, is to jumpstart neural pathways. When you remember things, your brain creates little connections to little things, and then they start hiding like memories and things as time goes on. Because let's be honest, we have a lot, like a lifetime of memories is a lot of things to keep in track. And so sometimes things get kind of blocked off. But when you give them a photo back of a moment, their brain goes, oh, I remember this is that. And it's kind of like a file system, but like not the best made file system. And it pulls back the memories. And now all of a sudden, they can remember moments and little things, maybe even smells. Again, if you did the perfume thing, hopefully it's not the smell of desperation, which I believe there's a description in the comments somewhere. But like they can bring that stuff back up. It's a big, big, big deal to realize that this is what you do. It's not about just like, ooh, looks pretty in a magazine. I'll be honest with you. There's not really that much intrinsic value to beauty. Can I just be real? Like there's not. Some people there are. Okay, great example is like some t-shirts are sold at $5 and some t-shirts are sold at $135. Some people put more value on beauty than others. Just a fact. Now, I'm not saying t-shirts are beautiful. Let's just be honest. But the deal is that you can't take that $5 person and turn them into someone who values the $135 t-shirt because they know they're trading that value for something else. And that's something to really keep in mind too. When a client does this perspective shift, they know, like instead of trading money for photos now they're trading money for memories. And all of a sudden, your sale becomes really easy. Okay? So your job as a photographer, whenever they're meeting with you, is to do this. It's just to explain the how. How are you going to ensure that when they get an image back, they can be jumped back into moments that have actually happened? Now, this isn't to say you can't pose. It's not to say that you can't, kind of curate the day a little bit. It's not to say that every photo you take is super important. It's not the case. But your job is to explain to them while you're in this conversation how you're going to make sure that their risks and their worries and their concerns are taken care of. Because if you don't, they're not going to see the value in what you do. Right? So we need to start working on shifting this perspective instead of going on Facebook. And I see this shit all the time where it's like, it's not just a photo, it's the years of labor and all the other, like, listen, I'm going to tell you something. You're just bitching. That's all it is. It's recreational bitching. We don't need that. What you need to start doing is really start looking to the psychology of who you're actually trying to work with, defining that ideal client, and then making sure that whatever you're writing is speaking to that person specifically and not to every other person on the internet. Because I'm going to be honest with you, the only people that are really excited when they see like, it's not just a photo, it's also the years of experience. The only person that's excited for that shit is other photographers who are just as pissed about it as you are. That's the only person you're talking to. That doesn't make you any money. That just makes you more photographer friends, which is great. We love all you. But the deal is that you're trying to sell something to a client who is trying to decide, is it worth it to go to Fiji for like 6 months or have all our photos taken back? Especially if you're at that $10,000 pricing range. You are going to have to do a lot of value and perspective changes for people. They're going to have to start understanding what it is you do way better. I'm hoping you guys are getting value from this. So how do we discover what's important with the clients, right? We kind of understand now, okay, this is the perspective I need to change. This is where it's coming from. I know now I need to make a perspective change for both me and the client. We both need to change up what we're doing. You need to shut the fuck up. I'm just going to be real. The first step in doing this is shutting the fuck up. Now, sort of, okay? Here's the deal. You need to start asking and listening twice as much as you're responding. So like if you're going through a consultation and you're never asking any questions and the whole time you're just talking at somebody, you're screwing up. Because here's the deal. We think as photographers we have all the answers. We think we need to educate all the time. And we do. We do need to explain where that perspective shift comes from. But your clients are the ones that actually know what they value. You don't. You won't know that until you're talking to them. People will surprise you. Okay. Some of my clients, like I said, like a lot of people will talk about family values and everything, and they want to talk about legacy. But the deal is that some of my clients specifically, they don't really care about the large extended family. They don't. So they're not going to sit there and want to spend a bunch of time talking about that. But if you went in and explained like how valuable that moment is without asking them first if that's something they would value in the first place, you're just wasting their time, and they're going to see you as less valuable because you clearly don't care about their time. So we'll go back to this. Shut the fuck up. Ask them a question, let them talk, find out what it is that they said, and then kind of relate it back to what you do. You need to start asking and listening twice as much as you're talking. You have 2 ears for a reason and one mouth. That's a very old thing that I used to get told in school all the time that never made any sense until right now. But it makes sense now. You wouldn't... This is something I want to deep dive into a second here. This is the key to everything. Okay. And then if you want more leads like this afterwards, you do have to start asking for referrals. Okay. If we want to start getting more clients like this, you need to go back through your list of clients, find out whose wedding you really love to work on, whose wedding really stood out to you, whose wedding you'd want to repeat. And then you need to reach right back out to that person and start deciding like, how do I get more people like this person? Well, it's the easiest way is to ask. And I'm going to give you guys kind of a little cheat sheet. This is like the last part of this video. It's a little cheat sheet on what you can do to get more clients like the clients you love working with in the first place. So you're going to send a very, very basic email, and it's going to have this very important sentence in here, okay? First of all, I want you to do, you start this email out with something along the lines of like, I really loved working with you. Here's some things I really thought were cool about your wedding. And then you're going to end it with this. Listen, I'm going to be real. I want to work with more people like you. You wouldn't happen to know just one person, someone just like you, who would benefit from whatever their pain point was that you solved. Right? And here's why this is important. We're qualifying this question a few times in here, right? So just one person. That's not that hard. Okay, that gives you an easy yes. If I email somebody and say, hey, you don't have 10 friends that need a wedding photographer, that's a lot to ask. I'm asking a lot of things. But the chances are, especially right now, it's December, guys. Like people are getting engaged. Let's see, it's December 8th. So you have just a few, like 2 weeks, give or take, till Christmas. The inquiries are coming. They're out there. We're getting inquiries right now. If you don't start doing this stuff, you're going to miss out on a lot of things. Because all these people's friends, like those clients that you love, their friends are getting engaged. And maybe it's been a year. Maybe it's been 2 years since you got married. Or maybe it's been 2 years since they got married. They're seeing all these engagements, and if you just remind them of the awesomeness of their wedding day, you can get more clients. You just have to ask. So again, we're making this an easy ask. You wouldn't happen to know just one person or couple in this case, right? Someone who's just like you, like your best friend, who would benefit from the way that we handled your wedding or from the thing that they love most from their wedding. By the way, if you're sending out a questionnaire at the end of their wedding, you already know what it is that they value the most. That's like the biggest secret, right? If we're asking people for feedback, we can actually also ask them with intention the next year later when we're trying to get more of their friends. And I want to work for all my clients' friends because I'm going to tell you something. I make friends at weddings. I want to hang out with the same people again. My friends, Megan and Brian actually got married 2 years ago. And I'm going to be honest with you. I sent them a text the other day. I was like, guys, I really wish you were getting married again this year because I had so much fun at that wedding. Now, not only does that put me top of mind for that person, but also it's like a fact. Like I genuinely want to shoot their wedding again, even though they're already married and they don't need that. I just loved hanging out with them. And that's what we call dream clients. I don't want you to think dream clients means, oh, I'm going to go, do these elopements somewhere, or I'm going to, I don't know, travel all over the world. Like that stuff can happen. Your dream clients can be those kind of people. But I really want you to think about the people you just like love being around because you were excited to shoot with those people, right? It doesn't matter at this point then if we're shooting inside of like a shitty warehouse or if we have like a beautiful wedding venue, as long as the connection with the people are good, then you do your job and you can deliver on it. That's dream clients. It doesn't have to be this crazy thing where it's like the Instagram version of dream clients where you're traveling to Peru for 6 weeks with this one couple who's going to be hiking Machu Picchu or whatever, and you're going to do it with them. And I don't know why I'm saying this because this is like the opposite of a dream client for me, but those are not average clients. They're not the people you're going to be running into all the time, but the people that you remember, like, oh man, I remember when Brian stopped me at the last part of your wedding. By the way, this wedding happened in October of 2021 on, I want to say my 8 weeks of triples. back then. We don't do that anymore. We did that year because of COVID reschedules. But I remember he stopped me. It was at reception. And he goes, dude, I just can't believe I get to marry that person down there that's dancing on the dance floor. She was she was having a good time at the time. She's like, I can't believe that I get to have her as my wife. I want more clients like that because that creates a really nice memory for me. And that really is the gist of what you should be looking for. And so here's some homework for you. I want you to go through your reviews. I want you to go through your weddings, and I want you to find like your 5 favorites. Okay? And really start narrowing down what the couples were like and what was similar between them. And then reach out to those 5 couples with this kind of message and explain why you loved working with them and why you're looking for more people like them, and see what you get back. I bet you get some referrals. I bet you get some leads coming in. And also, more importantly, I bet you get some clients that you're actually excited to work with. Remember, people hang out with people who are similar to them. So if those dream clients were your favorites because of personality and not because of the shit they had, they're going to have people that are like that in their lives. They're going to have more friends that are like that. They're going to have friends that are great. Now, I'm not going to say that's going to be every friend they have because everyone's got that one friend where you're like, he's kind of an asshole, but he's fun to be around. Sometimes that's me. Just going to say it. Sometimes that is me. Most of the time that's me. But if they have more friends like that are engaged, that are getting married, and they are able to refer you out, they want to. Because they want to be the person you want to shoot again. They want to have that be like, oh, this photographer shoots 100 plus weddings a year, and they really want to work with us again? Wow. So then Thaddeus says, question, what if you have way more second gigs than your own weddings? Is it wrong to reach out to the main on the wedding and ask if you can ask the couple for a review? Oh, absolutely do not do that. So here's the deal. If you have shot more second weddings, and that you just straight up cannot do this for, because realistically, like, it's not your client, right? It's your photos, but not your client. What I would recommend doing is like writing out what you liked about the wedding and start creating your dream persona, and then start writing content. Not necessarily blog posts, by the way. It doesn't have to be blog posts. It could be Instagram posts. It could be a TikTok script. It could be shorts. It could be really whatever you want it to be. I want you to start writing out content that actually speaks to that person on a deep level. Like, remember what they were like. Because I know if that is for you, it's probably fairly recently. Right? It's probably a couple of the weddings you did this year. If you can start writing content that speaks to that personality, you're going to start getting more of those reviews from places that are not from direct clients. When you're the first couple of years of your business, I'm just going to be real, you have to kind of define your dream client. You don't just automatically know. You could ask the main photographer for a review, yeah. So Brett said you could ask the main photographer for a review. You could. It's not about the review from the photographer, though. I think he's wanting to like ask the clients like what it was, or like if they have any referrals, which would be like a no. If it's just a review in general, you could technically ask the main, but like my answer even would be no. Like, I don't want my seconds reaching out to my couples. Not because I'm afraid they're going to steal business from me, but just because their business was not with that person and they realistically may not remember you that much. I'm just going to be real. Anyhow, if you guys got value from this, if you feel like this is going to give you some ideas or some tactics that you can use to get some more dream clients, and now you kind of have an understanding of how that sale even happens, let me know in the comments. Also, more importantly, if you found this valuable and you like your own friends, all right, I'm going to use this psychology on you right now. I want to hang out with them. I want them to come to these lives. So do me a favor, invite whoever that you want to work with, whoever is in your friend group that like, oh, hey, you should know about what Roy's talking about. You can watch him have a speech impediment live on the internet. It's fun. If you know somebody, invite them. Come let them hang out with us. These are not industry secrets. And by the way, a lot of this stuff goes on YouTube anyway. So even if you're trying to gatekeep and trying to keep your competition from finding out about me, first of all, thank you for thinking so highly of me. Second of all, I'm going to put it out on the internet anyway. So I'm going to be undoing your work a little bit. Because we want more people in here. We want to have more conversations.